Alright, what is up guys? It's Krod here, back with another good video. I wanted to talk about why so many boxers play promoter politics to protect their O. And why do people care so much about fighters protecting their undefeated record in boxing? I think this is very important because boxing is a very political sport, as many would say, and I just find it pretty disappointing that for the sport that people love, that could be considered a modern day gladiator sport. Boxing is a very dangerous sport that requires a lot of discipline and skill. And the issue with boxing is that people don't ever see the hard work and talent about what a fighter goes through versus what a fighter needs to do to, manage their undefeated status, right? And I guess I'm going to address that. Why do people really care so much about a fighter's O being protected? Because that obviously just shows that, fighters that are on the coincidental that don't have the best of record, but they are very good boxers, are the ones that are always protected or defended against fighters that are on the hope list, but they don't want to fight the better upper echelon fighters that may not have the best fights on their resume, but they still try to get up there and fight the best people out there. But unfortunately, those hopeless fighters always try to find a way to avoid the coincidentalist fighters. So I guess the issue is just that people think that people need to have these type of people to be running the sport, where fighters have to have undefeated records in order to be those type of fighters. And that just doesn't make any sense, because that just shows that the sport is dying away, and it's not really helping the sport grow when people have such low tolerance for seeing what fighters go through on a day-to-day basis. Last time I checked, the greatest fighters in the world had to take losses before they started winning their big fights. And I think that's what a lot of fighters need to start understanding, that you cannot achieve a undefeated record forever. And for certain fighters like Floyd Mayweather, or that one Asian fighter that I forgot, and plenty of other fighters down the road, it obviously takes skill and takes a lot of discipline to keep your undefeated record, but that doesn't really mean that you are automatically invincible. You're still a problem, in the sense of like what people could probably say you still need work on this and that, and you still need to have your craft given some time for you to get rid of your green, I guess like your green skill ability to be more golden brown, where you have more of a sharper iron to use for combat. And the issue is just that some people in boxing just don't have that discipline to sharpen their iron. Some people in the sport think that they're just too good and they can just do whatever the hell they want. And that's simply not true, because people have done some great things in boxing, and the issue is just that they either don't get a good enough opportunity, or they just don't get talked about, which is very sad, but that's what certain fighters go through. And that really needs to go in boxing, where the best always need to fight the best, and regardless of what you see out of a fighter's record, you let those fighters do what they got to do in the ring. You know what I'm saying, man? But I just think either way, when you look at these fighters fight, they have a very good heart in the ring, and I actually do appreciate what some of these fighters go through. Especially fighters that you never heard about. Some of them, not all of them, because some fighters just don't deserve to be on TV, and other fighters do. But that's why I do support a market competition in boxing, where you should respect the fighter's ability and let the consumers decide if this fighter is actually worth, let the time and effort to be a fighter. And I just think that in boxing, there's certain levels to the game that makes the game so interesting. And then once you get up to that level and you actually beat those top level opponents, then yeah, you'll definitely be up there. You know what I'm saying? But I guess the reason why people, especially boxers, want to keep their undefeated status in the sport is because they want to keep a good payday waiting for them. And I understand that's something that boxers need to do in today's time frame, but the issue is that, are you willing to keep that record alive, or the undefeated status alive, but you still have to fight your toughest opposition? And I think certain fighters that do that are too afraid to fight their contemporaries to actually prove why they have this tough, hard-fought, undefeated record. And I think that's what a lot of these fighters don't like to do, because they're just too afraid of the outcome with certain fighters that they know they can't beat, but they use that as an excuse, mentally, to not fight those guys. And I'd say that's just pure weakness at the end of the day. Like, just because you have an undefeated winning record does not mean you are the best fighter in the world. I mean, a guy like Floyd Mayweather can be the exception, because Floyd Mayweather actually fought the best. He actually did what he had to do to try to be the best, but not many people gave him that opportunity, and sadly, Floyd Mayweather had to, probably fight some guys that were not really at his own level, but he still fought them, and he still tried to give a good performance. I mean, some people didn't want him to fight Juan Manuel Marquez because people would say, "Oh, that's a cherry pick," but in the end, it's like he still fought him, and that that fight did some really good numbers. I mean, he defeated 29 out of his 20 or out of his own 50 opponents, right? And it's sad enough that Floyd Mayweather never got more opportunities with tougher level opposition, but for him to fight 29 world champions, that's a really big accomplishment that not a lot of fighters would do. You're punching so many people in the face that, don't you ought to think like it's time for you to slow down? And that's really the biggest problem in boxing. A lot of people don't want to go through that Floyd Mayweather process of being that pretty boy, and then eventually leading to a Money Mayweather status. And I think that's really the biggest issue in the sport, where people are so focused on trying to be so hype in boxing, and that's not really helping boxing grow. So I think either way, that's what kind of really throws off the sport a lot. And people don't really want to be on that higher end status, and that's what kind of makes up the sport bad, because people are so worried about losing their undefeated record. And I would say there's more to it. People, especially young fighters, they just want to have a good payday in boxing, and I don't blame them, because you're putting your life onto the line, and you want to make sure your undefeated record is perfect until you get maybe bigger fights. But that's not the way to go. That's why that I do support the idea of having, I would say, fight leagues in boxing. That seems about a little bit more, reasonable. But that could be something that could be advocated, in the sense of having, how should I say, maybe like a UFC like fight league on a competitive scale, and making sure that people are fighting at a high level, and fighters are not ducking other fighters, and also have fight tournaments similar to Super Series 6 or Super 6 tournaments, that give fighters all opportunities to try to fight the best. And I think that's a good way to do it. But either way, I think there's a lot to be made, and a lot of improvements that the sport can get fixed on. But I think either way, the sport of boxing really does need a lot of help. So yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say of why I believe people want to keep, or fighters want to keep, their undefeated status in boxing. Um, yeah, let me know what you guys think, and I will talk to you guys later. Thank you and goodbye.